There are moments brief, unexpected, impossible to manufacture when the noise stops. When the ongoing story of who you are and what you need and what went wrong and what might go wrong next just goes quiet for a second. You might be in the middle of something completely ordinary. Washing dishes. Driving a familiar road. Sitting with someone you love without either of you saying anything. And for just a moment, the past isn't pressing in and the future isn't pulling forward and you are simply here. Fully here. Not managing anything. Not performing anything. Just present and somehow inexplicably okay. Those moments don't last. The mind rushes back in, the story resumes, and you're already half analyzing what just happened by the time it's over. But the piece of it stays just slightly, like a faint scent that doesn't quite leave the room. A Course in Miracles has a name for what just happened in that moment. It calls it the holy instant. And it says it is the most important experience available to you. Not because it's rare, but because it's actually always available. And you can learn to step into it deliberately. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what the holy instant is in ACIM's framework, precisely, not vaguely. You'll understand why time itself, in the Course's teaching, is the ego's primary tool for keeping you trapped, and how the holy instant steps completely outside of that trap. You'll see why this is not a mystical concept reserved for advanced practitioners, but the most practical entry point into everything the Course teaches. You'll understand the relationship between the holy instant, forgiveness, and the healing of relationships. And you'll have a concrete practice for inviting the holy instant into your day, not waiting for it to happen to you, but actively making space for it. This is the teaching that takes everything the Course has been building toward and makes it experiential rather than just intellectual. Think of a time you were in the middle of a conflict with someone, real tension, real grievance, words already said that couldn't be unsaid. And then something happened. Maybe a child walked into the room. Maybe one of you suddenly laughed despite everything. Maybe there was just a pause long enough that both of you looked at each other and for one unguarded second saw not your opponent but just a person. Tired and scared and trying, same as you. And in that second, the whole edifice of the conflict felt almost absurd. Not resolved, but suddenly much less solid. Much less inevitable. That moment, that gap that opened in the middle of the war, is what the Course is pointing to when it describes the holy instant. It didn't require preparation. It didn't require either of you to be spiritually advanced. It required only that the story paused long enough for something else to be visible. The Course says that something else is always there. The story is the only thing ever blocking it. To understand the holy instant, you first have to understand what the Course says about time. In ACIM's framework, the ego lives entirely in time specifically. It lives in the past and the future simultaneously. And it uses both to prevent you from being present. The past is the ego's storehouse of grievances, of evidence, of all the things that happened that prove the world is dangerous and you are damaged. The future is the ego's anxiety machine, the place where all those past patterns are projected forward as warnings. This will happen again. You will be hurt again. Don't let your guard down. Between the past and the future, the present moment gets almost no room. And the present moment, the Course says, is the only place where reality, and therefore healing, actually exists. The holy instant is the Course's name for the present moment fully entered. Not the clock time present, which is just another point on the ego's timeline. But the living present, the now that is outside the ego's narrative entirely. In the holy instant, the past is not running and the future is not threatening and the ego's story is suspended, even briefly. What remains in that suspension is what the Course calls the light, the awareness of love, wholeness, and connection that was always here but was being crowded out by the noise. Chapter 15 describes the holy instant as the point of release, the place where the miracle happens. Not because anything in the external world changes, but because in the present moment. Freed from the weight of the past and the fear of the future, you can see the situation as it actually is. And what it actually is, the Course says, is always more innocent and more workable than the ego's version of it. But here is the question that matters most practically: how do you get there? Because saying, "be present," is one of the most repeated and least useful pieces of advice in the entire self-help genre. Everyone knows being present is valuable. Almost no one can sustain it for more than a few minutes. So what does ACIM actually offer that is different from the general advice to be more mindful, and what makes the holy instant more than just a pleasant accident? The Course's answer is surprisingly specific. The holy instant is not achieved through effort or technique. It is received through willingness. There is a distinction there that matters enormously. Effort keeps the ego in charge. You are still the one doing something, managing something, achieving something. Willingness releases control. It is the act of stepping back from the ego's management of the moment and simply saying, "I am open to something other than what my fear is currently telling me is here." The Course gives a very direct instruction in Chapter 15. To experience the holy instant, bring to it only your willingness. Not your history, not your analysis, not your grievances or your plans. Just the willingness to be wrong about what this moment requires. Wrong about the threat level. Wrong about what the other person is. Wrong about what you need to defend. That single act of willingness offered genuinely, even for a moment, is the crack in the wall the light comes through. The Course also connects the holy instant directly to relationships. It says that the holy instant is particularly available in the presence of another person. Because the other person's reality, their aliveness, their humanness, their innocence beneath the ego's performance, can break through the story when you let it. This is why the holy instant and the shift from special to holy relationship are so connected. Every moment you look at another person and choose to see them as they actually are rather than as the role your ego has assigned them, you are in the holy instant. Here is your practice. Choose one interaction you will have today: a conversation, a shared meal, a moment with someone you live or work with. Before it begins, take 3 slow breaths and set a single internal intention: I am going to be fully here for this. Not managing, not performing, not planning what to say next. Just present. And at some point during that interaction, look at the other person, really look, and let yourself notice one thing that is true about them that has nothing to do with the story you normally carry about them. One true thing. Their tiredness. Their effort. Their hope. Their humanness. Hold that for 5 seconds. That is the holy instant. Small, practical, available right now. You don't build toward it. You simply stop blocking it. We started with those moments that arrive unexpectedly: washing dishes, sitting in silence, a sudden pause in the middle of a conflict. And I hope what's clear now is that those moments were not accidents. They were glimpses of what is always here when the ego's story steps aside for a second. The Course is not asking you to live permanently in some transcendent state. It is asking you to practice stepping into the present, deliberately, repeatedly, with willingness instead of effort, until what is always here becomes easier to find. That is the entire curriculum, really. Not a destination you arrive at, but a door you learn to walk through more and more often. Subscribe so you don't miss video 12, because next week we move into one of the most practically powerful sections of ACIM, the workbook. What it is, how it works, and why 365 lessons asking you to look at the ordinary events of your day might be the most systematic mind training program ever written. Leave a comment below. Have you had a holy instant, a moment when the story just stopped and something else was briefly there? Tell me what it was like. See you in video 12.